This is Twit. Actually, your first item is thinking more about Neo and Duo, the new devices coming at the end of the year, which frankly, I almost every night wake up and think about them.
Do you really?
Leo, so do I.
Yeah, I really want them.
I dreamt about them this week.
See? We're obsessed with these. People said, why did Microsoft announce this a year ahead of time? This is why.
This is why. Actually, this is literally why. In fact, I know that Panos Panay didn't want to discuss this stuff back in October, but I think you kind of needed to have that reveal so that the SDK that they just released for the Duo, right? Duo, sorry, the Android one, makes sense, and you have the context for it. Because I think otherwise there would have been a little interest, of course, but I think there would have been less interest if we hadn't seen the devices.
Yeah, agree.
And we want them. And the thing is, this is opportune because they're letting Samsung, Nokia, all these people put out folding phones that are god-awful because they try to put the screen over it. Did you see the new Nokia that everybody, $1,500, everybody's saying, oh, this is the greatest thing, flip phone. They put out a video that says, by the way, it's normal for there to be some bubbles and wrinkles in the screen. Well, that may be normal, but that's not what I want in a screen.
No.
I touched the light bulb yesterday, and it exploded, and I have a bubble on my finger, and I can tell you it's not normal.
No, it's not normal. No. So the notion of having two non-bubbly screens with a hinge is fine with me. You got
to understand, this is part of the transition, right? So obviously folding displays are happening, and we will have that science fiction future where we can unfold this thing and there won't be any creases and it will work great. But it's going to take a while to get there. It's just going to take a while. So we're going to have dual displays, I think, first. I think those will be more mechanically sound or whatever, or less prone to failure. And then eventually we will have reliable, decent folding displays. Probably not going to happen this year.
Somebody in the chat room says, why do we want folding displays? And I will submit this is why. We want something pocketable that has the screen real estate of an iPad or something like that, of a tablet.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, so you could extrapolate that out a little bit, because if you think about like the standard size of a smartphone, right? So normal smartphone. If this thing was half the height, if I could fold this thing over, that makes it's the size of a wallet.
Yeah,
right.
That's that Nokia.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
If you're carrying a computer, where maybe it's the size of a keyboard instead of the size of the full deal, and you can just kind of fold it out. There's some value there. I think across the different machine types or form factor, display sizes, there's lots of different interesting things that can happen. I really would like to discuss this a little further, because I still hear back from people who are freaked when I complain about how dual screens are distracting. Like I know that I will never stop hearing from this, but here's what I'm going to say to these people. You can't beat physiology. You're wrong. Multiple screens are distracting, and you are making the same argument that no one would ever make. But anytime you see someone texting in their car when they're driving, they think like you think. Yeah. They think they can do this.
But Paul,
you can't.
I wasn't here for this debate, but I did see the fallout. I have 3 screens on my desk.
Right.
And it's not that I'm focused on 3 screens. You're right. That's silly. I mean, I'm not running a nuclear power plant, but I do.
Well, okay, but you have to hear the back end of the argument. So the other half of it is that the issue with dual screens on a Neo or a Duo is that they're not really dual screens. It's artificially separating the screen with a divider so that you can get something that's just a normal screen. It's not this panoramic display.
How big is that middle bezel? It should be as narrow as possible.
It's pretty damn big.
Yeah, it looked like it was big. Yeah. And
I would first gen that will change.
Be bigger.
That will make it better.
I think you have to have a hinge. I think certainly with current materials, and I know Samsung's new one is going to have a thin glass screen. But I think there's no way to really have a bending screen right now.
It will happen.
No, the whole hallmark of Surface is their hinges, right? Like that's what they pride themselves on is the hinge.
Yeah, so actually this is kind of good timing for them, because Microsoft's not ready to release a folding display device. And so they make great hinges. So neat. I mean, that will be good. There's nothing wrong with it.
There's different people. So the reason I have multiple screens is, and the same reason I want a Duo or a Neo is I have one screen that has Like if you do video editing, you'll have a screen with the video and a screen with the controls. In my case, the chat room and messaging is one screen.
Yeah.
I have a lot of messengers open.
But you're also not flying a plane, or driving a car.
But the thing, the main screen is the one I'm working on 90% of the time.
Yeah.
But I know
people. I know people like using multiple displays. I'm not ragging on it per se. But
you
please
don't use them at home.
Please don't believe you're not being distracted. If there's something animating over here and you're trying to focus on this, you're not focusing on this. You can't. Yeah. It's impossible. It's just the way we're built.
I think though you can use these coming devices in a lot of different, like they call them postures, right? So you can have a single image across two screens. You can have one thing on the left, one on the right that don't ever interact. They're two separate things, almost like as if you snapped two apps side by side, right? And then there's a spanning thing where you can have some of the content on this side and it can be pulled over across to the other device and enlarged or made smaller. So there's different ways you can use the apps, right?
To be fair to, because people will say, well, what if I want to read over here and take notes over here? That's an excellent use for two screens. It's really an excellent use for two sides of the same screen. And that's kind of my point.
Or a big screen would work,
Right.
But you don't want to carry a big screen in your pocket, Paul. So
that's exactly right. The thing that Leo said up front, I think, is the real impetus for this. They're selling it on this other thing. But the real point of this is to get something smaller that is if it's a form factor, something that will fit in your pocket easier. If it's a laptop style thing or whatever, it's just a smaller, hopefully lighter device or whatever that can unfold. It's not because two screens opens up the magic of productivity or whatever nonsense they were saying.
I know. Right.
There's nothing wrong with doing, note taking and, whatever. I mean, if you're a student, you can make the argument, but I think the point is simply that existing devices already solve that need. The change that's coming in these devices is what Leo said up front. It's really about the portability portability is probably the best way to say it.
But you know where that lingo comes from, right? Where they say it'll increase your productivity and all that. So they have to hire people to do these design studies, right? They do. They have to have this grand idea about the design. Like we saw with the original Surfaces, they were designed for creators, right? Remember when they first said that word and we were like, what? Right? And then I think this device is going to be targeted more for people who are prosumers, like really keyed into productivity. So they have to back that play with words, right? And they're going to be like, what? We did research and 9 people out of 10 are more productive when they use dual screens like this.
So that's better marketing than the real reason this guy would want it, which is, are you that guy that wants to flip open the phone so everyone asks you what device you have? This is for you because it's crazy looking. It's really different. Nobody wants to think they're that person, but a lot of early adopters of this kind of device are that person, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with productivity. It's like, man, I've been really hampered by my ability to get work done on a laptop. Thank God someone has divided the screen in half. It's like an inch thick. And now I can, unleash the magic of productivity across two displays. It's crazy.
But you know what the other thing is they're trying to do? And they did say this in the October launch. They said, we're trying to create a new device category. And so I'm really curious, when these come out, do they market them as PCs, as tablets, as a dual screen tablet, or do they call it some new imaginary term that they come up with, right?
That's not just that's not your imagination working there. Remember they were kind of weird, Microsoft, when we referred to this thing as a phone.
Right.
So the early indication right back in October was, look, it's Android. Yes, you can make phone calls on it. It's not a phone. It's something different. They really do want it to be something different.
They do.